Hello, my friends. Today we are designing not 20 posters every 5 minutes, but a total of 20 posters with one poster every 5 minutes.
I wrote that title in my notes, thinking it was so clever, it was so catchy, and then I realized the syntax is wrong. But I was so attached to the title that I just accepted it and decided that we are correcting it within the first few seconds of the video. So before you even get into the comments, yes, I know that that is wrong.
But we are designing 20 posters in total to hopefully curb my perfectionism. So I'm thinking that we are doing 4 sets, 4 different styles of 5 posters, total of 20, and a total of 100 minutes. Is the mathing? Okay, here are all of the styles that I'm gonna do in this video, and I guess we're just going for it. For the first set, I'm calling it the vegetable set because I want to draw some vegetables. I've always liked those posters who are very organic and hand-drawn and quirky looking. So that's what I'm trying to do here, but it took me a minute to just find my pencil tool because it's not something I usually use. And I'm just drawing with my trackpad. So that will be the theme of the next 5. A lot of wonky drawings. I'm trying to do a set of tomatoes here for the first one and feeling very, very clunky in the whole process, feeling very out of practice, a lot of fuzzing around, and I don't know, mini decisions that occur, and you realize 3 minutes have already passed. I'm drawing the same set of leaves and then just duplicating it to save some time, adding a little background and rotating the leaves so they look a little different. And I had this idea to also add the Filipino translation of the vegetable, or in this case, the fruit, just so I have 2 lines of type to work with on the poster. And I ended up really liking it. And that's it for the first one. I really was already struggling, feeling like, can I even do this for the next 19? The second one that I'm doing here is an eggplant. And I'm just freehanding with my trackpad again. So you see me repeating the same shape, redoing it a bunch of times before I settle on one that I like. So much of the 5 minutes is just repeating the same drawing until I like it enough. But I guess that's what designing is. The palette or the palette generator rather, that I'm using is called Coolers. I'm sure a lot of you already know this tool. You just press the space bar to generate a new palette, but I will link it down below for those of you who still are not familiar with it. I just place the type and the edges, like the top and bottom of the poster, and trying to fit the eggplant snugly in the remaining space in between, doing a little, how would you call it? Little fixes, little tweaks to make it fit. And the third poster, we're moving so fast. I hope that you are enjoying this process. The third poster is carrots. The third poster is about carrots. Same process. I really like the idea that I ended up doing sets. It does reduce the thinking and the design brain that you have to use, because by the second and third poster, there would be things that you have already figured out. For example, for this one, the type is already figured out, so that saves me time in repeating that process for all of it. Drawing the leaves again, but I wasn't satisfied with repeating it since I had that extra time. So I drew all of the 5 leaves. Seeing this in 3.5 times speed, I wish that I used the pen tool or the pencil tool that fast, but that's just not the truth. I did the type in the middle just to make it a little different from the first 2. And that's the carrot poster. The fourth one is cabbage, red cabbage specifically. For this one, I started with a type first because I had an idea to fit the cabbage snugly in the remaining space. Yeah, you can see that the first circle or the first leaf of the cabbage, I guess, I wanted it to fit snugly in the remaining space. Trying to not have a breakdown because it's looking like more like an onion than a cabbage. But with a time constraint, you don't really have time to overthink your design decisions, which I guess is the point of this video. So, what can you say? I added one more layer because the count was not right for the alternating colors, and then just added the core, and that's it. Last one for the vegetable set is mushroom. I had to search what mushroom is in Tagalog or Filipino, but that's okay. We figured it out. Same process, drawing, freehanding. Is this good content? Just seeing me draw mushrooms 6 times, twisting it around so that it feels more like a composition than just random doodles. I think I tried to see what it would look like if I did a stroke, so I have I have a negative space inside the mushroom, but it didn't work out. So we're just working on the text with 1 minute left. And I had 30 seconds left, so I decided to fix the tomato type. I ended up liking the top and bottom text the most, so I wanted everything to look uniform, at least in that regard, especially since the colors were not planned. And that's it. That is the first set, already 5 posters done. I think I was having crises after crises, constantly feeling like I was running out of time, but it did end up being pretty good, I think. And then on to the next one. The second set is a city. We're calling it the city set. I did some traveling this year and I visited a lot of cities in Europe, and I really wanted to work with type after such a heavy illustration design. I'm more of a magazine girl and a typography girl to begin with. So I pre-picked these 5 photos that you will see. Just adding a simple design. I found this inspo magazine cover just in Pinterest, and that's what I'm trying to take inspo from. I did a little yellow multiply filter because I feel like all of these photos are not gonna look cohesive otherwise, and there's not really a lot of time to bring each one to Photoshop and have a consistent filter. And I made the dumb decision to do my writing on my own, taking up so much of my time, immediately realizing that this is a very bad idea because copywriting and designing are not the same skill. So for the rest of the following posters, I'm just gonna do lorem ipsum. It is fun though. I love writing my own copy, but just gives you another reminder why those are different skills and they take a lot of time. But because by the second poster I figured out my grid and my type treatments, it does give me more time for every succeeding poster. For this one, I'm attempting the illustrative type treatment that you see in the Japanese inspiration. Typically, if I have a lot of time in the world, I would tailor all of these highlight type to relate to the city that I was visiting in. So for something like Cork Island, I would probably find the translation for like yay but in Irish or sheep but in Irish. I decided though that it wasn't working. I feel like the font was making it look cheap and it wasn't looking as professional as I wanted. But this is just looking like a newspaper now, which I'm not really angry about, but it is what it is. We did get more done just because we decided not to write our own copy. So, yeah. The third one, now just copying everything. Oh, this is Antalya in Turkey. So, already saving so much time because the only thing I need to change is the photo, and I'm just copying the previous type treatment to the next one. So I have more time to really think about what design decisions I can do. Loving this bold type where the type itself is already the design. I'm adding this little circle element at the bottom of the page to have the accent color just pop through a second location, so it's more circular in layout. And I think I'm adding six because it's the sixth city I visited, although I didn't count, but I just thought it would be an interesting extra element there. Seeing what else I can do, I had 40 seconds left, so I decided to add a subtitle. And Antalya was a city I didn't know existed before. That is genuinely true. I am very ashamed of my ignorance, but genuinely, I just saw that it was cheaper to fly to Antalya than to Istanbul, and that's the only reason why I went. But it did end up being one of my favorite cities from my trip. It was so beautiful. For the fourth one of the second set, which is the ninth poster in total, we're doing Prague. Trying to see if I can put Czech Republic, but that would be too long. So I went with the local name of the city, which is Praha, and then Czechia. It fits much better on the page. Finding a color that fits, but it's not really popping up with the photo or against the photo. Again, if I had unlimited time, I would manicure the photo more to have more contrast, but that's not what we have today. Bringing it down instead so it has more contrast with the white page, and decreasing the type to let the layout breathe better. Adding a little line, again, just to make it a circular layout that the accent color is also showing at the very bottom of the page. I feel like that finishes it off more completely. And this was more satisfying. I really like how I just kept building and building on the design with the extra time that I had, and you end up with a pretty satisfying layout by the end of it. And for the last one, the 10th poster, that this is in Paris, specifically the Galerie Lafayette department store. I just thought that the ceiling was so pretty. Initially wanted to move the photo, but I feel like it would interfere with the grid and it would just look off when you put all of them side by side. So instead, I decided to decrease the size of the header, trying to see where I can put Galerie Lafayette. And I don't know if you feel like this set looks boring, but it's taking so much more time than the illustration set, which is a testament to how much editorial design takes. But I do love editorial design. It's probably just not the best call for this exercise, but you take up so much time fixing the type and the leading and the spacing, making everything fit the grid. So many micro decisions that just add up. And that is the city set. Really satisfied with how it evolved. It just reminds me that thumbnailing and iteration is really important. I did not know that I was going to end up with this layout when I first began with the Regensburg poster. So I love that even though I did not have any plans, it just naturally came out. The more it evolved, the more iteration I did. Super satisfying to see that process. And how are we all doing? We're halfway there. I feel like I was already super tired when I was filming this. It was 5 p.m. Was already filming for like 2 hours. The sun was setting in the Philippines. It was just a lot, but And for the third set, since I realized that so much of my time was being spent on choosing a color palette and a font, for this set specifically, I pre picked a palette. It was a 5 color pastel palette. So all of the posters would have a different background following this palette. Let me know if you think that that should count in the process, but it does give me a lot of insight that so much of my process is spent on making those decisions, even though once I have limited myself with one font and one palette, interesting things still come up in the design. So very interesting design experiment. Really liking how the blend came to be. It looks super satisfying, and I just did a um, simple font, one of my favorites, Noya Montreal. And that is all of the time that we have for the first one. Okay, second one, I wanted to do a flower just because I love pucker and bloat. It's such an easy way to make a mathematically accurate flower. And flowers are always cute. Nothing could go wrong. Words spoken before a disaster? Maybe? Hopefully not. Yeah. I remember my brain being so tired already at this point that flower was just, it required little brain power to do. That's why I did it. And just stacking it up so that it fills more of the page. Probably should have used blend the same way as the first one, but that's all we have time for. Adding a little circle. I cannot believe how the little circle finished it off so well. Trying to see what it would look like if it consumed more of the page, and I didn't like it. And that's it. For the third one, again, brain running out of ideas, just going by vibes. So for this one, I think let's just do a heart. Everyone loves hearts. They're cute, they're safe. I know how to do them with rounded rectangles. I'm really liking the rounded rectangles for this set. I don't know why, but that's what we're doing. Wasn't satisfied by how the heart was looking though, so much of my time was used just making it look better. It ended up looking pretty good for a heart, I think. Wasn't sure what layout to do, so just added a bunch of random hearts around. Wasn't sure what to put. Heartstring, heartstrung, love burst. Ended up with heartburst. I don't really know what that means. It sounds very, very similar to heartburn, which is not a good thing. But that's what we have. That's what we're going with. For some reason, my obsession with the rounding the corners continues. Wasn't really sure what other figure I could draw with that though. So I was just putting a bunch of random things around, trying to see what it looks like with a different color. It did break the pattern that I was establishing with the type at the top and bottom and the illustration in the middle. But I was starting to like the DNA-esque layout and wasn't sure what to put in. So I typed in petals in the wind. Felt appropriate in a way. They do look like petals in the wind if you think about it. I don't really know what that means. It looks like it could be a book cover, which is also very interesting. That's it. And the last one, already in poster 15. I was already having a breakdown for sure. Crashing out left and right. It was already 6 p.m. and the sun is setting too early. I did like that in Petals in the Wind, I used all of the colors in the palette. So I did try to emulate that with the last design, doing a little combined shape. And again, our rounded corners, adding that back in. I wasn't sure where to put the type in this, and I didn't really have time to edit to make the negative space bigger, although I did like the treatment in Petals in the Wind. So I didn't want it to be alone in the set. So I just added room to grow and allowed it to just overlap a little bit. And that's it. 15 posters done. I ended up really liking this set. Some more than the others, for sure. But all in all, very satisfying. And now for the last set, I guess we're calling it the coat set. While I was recording this, I feel like I said so many things repeatedly. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm having a stroke. I'm so stressed. I feel like I'm cheating. So I thought it would be funny to summarize the video or to round it all up with the quotes that I was saying. I thought that was very meta. Thought that was very cute, very fun. Again, sticking with my brain being so tired, thinking up with new ideas, I just stick with a very limited palette and the fonts that I always like to go for, which is Ivy Presto in this first one. Adding a little cheeky subtitle. I don't know what I'm doing. Who said this was a good idea? That's generally what I was feeling. This is such a hard project, more so than I realized. But yeah, doing some kerning with the extra time that I have, and that's it. This one is I'm having a stroke. Also, let me know genuinely, is this still an acceptable thing to say as a joke? Or should I find a new saying? Because I think I made a joke that this illustration needs a stroke. The same way that I have a stroke or something. I feel like so many of the YouTubers I follow have this combination of a really good serif, a really good sans serif, and a really good stylistic font. In this case, this is Nautica with IV Presto. Just doing that to have an interest in the middle of the page and using the same background again to reduce my design decisions. And adding a little small type at the bottom to just round it all out so that there's an element at the bottom of the poster to ground everything. I'm having a stroke because all of my illustrations had a stroke, so I was like, same. Third poster, I'm so stressed. Because at this point, I'm not deciding on the colors and I'm making very limited decisions with a font. I feel like I did save up time and I did not use the full 5 minutes in the delayed posters. For this one, trying an extended and wide type, but it wasn't working. So trying to find a very geometric type because I'm want to stretch the O to exaggerate it, like I'm so stressed. And that's what we see here. Okay, fourth poster. What am I writing? I forgot. I feel like I'm cheating. Yeah, the whole time I was filming, every time I felt like I did something wrong, I would feel like I'm cheating. Like if I'm over time, even just 10 seconds, if I ended up adding the background or doing little design things even before starting the timer, all of those things was just happening and just me doubting everything that I do every single step of the way, trying to see where this goes. And again, adding a little subtitle. I feel like I'm cheating every time I'm doing something wrong, which I feel like is very relatable. And that's it. Again, this is one of the posters that I was done before the 5 minutes, so I just cut the time because, again, I wanted to be done with this exercise. And this is already poster 20, so I was so relieved. And again, finishing it off with no matter how many crash outs I do or no matter how many breakdowns happened while designing, at the end of the day, it's okay. And doing a little journal, which I think is so inception of this experience. I'm journaling about the poster exercise while working on the poster. I don't know, something about that. Yeah, it's okay because the whole point is to help curb my perfectionism, and who makes the rules anyway? Who decides if I'm cheating? Maybe you. Let me know in the comments if you feel like I am. And since I had a lot of time for this last one, I did decide to write the copy as part of my time. You can read it. It's like my very real feelings, real time. And just finding a place to put that in to finish it off. Yeah. And that is everything. This is everything that we did. I cannot believe, yeah, even though it was very stressful, even though I was breaking down, questioning everything that I was doing, questioning all of my decisions that led me into this point, I did have a lot of fun. And now I can genuinely say I designed 20 posters in September, which is way, way, way more than what I have done in the past 6 months. So all in all, really impressed with myself. If you enjoy this video, if you want more of these speedrun design type of content, or if you want me to do another design exercise, leave a comment so I know what to do next. And if you end up doing this exercise also, let me know. I think that would be super exciting. And that's it. Bye. And then add a stroke because everything has a stroke so far, even me, because apparently I only have 2 minutes left. What kind of eats? Oh, I'm not hungry because I've been eating. Period. I feel insane.
I am tired and my brain's a little fried, but that's okay. are reviving our design